So yeah, you can be a good citizen and actually help, whether it's for the environment, whether it's for social causes, whether it's for people who can't afford lawyers. There's so much that one can do, and it'll be great if some of you all are able to, do things like that for society. Also, today most people want to join large law firms, get paid as well. But after that, there's a fantastic future. We need good lawyers who want to do criminal law, because today very few good lawyers do criminal law. So there are a lot of opportunities over there, and I think some of you all should think about those opportunities.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Uday from class 9. I wanted to ask you, what are the lessons you learned after becoming a lawyer?
What are the lessons? To court, or for a negotiation or whatever, it is you don't feel that bright because you've not prepared properly. While on the contrary, you can be a very junior lawyer, but if you've done some hard work, read your files the previous day, you can go out the next day and do a brilliant job. So it's all about preparing, not taking anything for granted, and not feeling that you know everything. Because however old you are as a lawyer, every day we learn something new. And so you must always be, don't feel you know everything, and try and learn something new every day.
I'm Shiva from class 9. Sir, what's your personal opinion about international law, and what would you advise people to study, international law or Indian law?
No, I think that's, I don't know if that question is formulated very well, because in India, you can only study Indian law. So you can, if you want to do international law, it depends whether you want to do English law, whether you want to do civil law in places like Europe, or what you want to do. So essentially everybody in India practices only Indian law. At the moment, there is just about a month or two ago, there were basically some new rules brought in by the Bar Council permitting foreign law firms to practice international law in India. So that is something that people might start doing, but essentially it's for foreign lawyers to be doing that. So as of now, Indian lawyers, if you're planning to study in India, you're only going to be doing Indian law. Now you can do cross-border law, that is, you can deal with foreign companies coming into India, or you can deal with Indian companies that are looking at investing overseas. But today, the people who study in India are doing Indian law.
Sir, I was asking about the law which maintains the relationship between countries.
Yeah, so that, so that is, that will really, there are bilateral agreements between different countries, and then it will depend on what law is going to be guiding them. So, but I don't think that's something that you all should be looking at this point in time. At the moment, I think you need to learn your basics of Indian law, and after that, maybe you can go and specialize wherever else, and then you can, for instance, English law is used in many of those contracts. So then you can start, if say you go and do a LLM in the UK, then you can start looking at things like that. But I think it's too premature at class 10 and 11 to start thinking about international law.
Okay, so thank you, sir.
Software with all the case law. When I was young, you'd be going through all these different books looking for case law, things like that. Today it's available at the tap of easy, but applying your mind, thinking laterally and applying what you've researched.
My name is Aradhya Maindan. I'm from class 9A.
No, I think you've got very good law colleges in India, and I certainly think that you should be studying. My daughter's a lawyer, and fortunately I could have afforded to send her. My son went and studied in the US because he was not doing law anywhere else to do law, but I told her to study law over here, and because I think the opportunities are in India today.
We begin this special day with a musical tribute to justice and the spirit of law. This original piece, titled The was written by our esteemed chairperson, Ms. Farzana Dahodwala, and composed by our music teacher, Mr. Sam. This powerful anthem celebrates the spirit of justice, unity, and the journey that begins in our new moot courtroom. As the lyrics declare, with minds so sharp and hearts so fair, we'll argue, learn, and dare to care. Let's welcome the students with a big round of applause.
Voice is strong, truth and reason lead us on. From east to west we stand as one, under the light of justice sun. Gather now, voice is strong, truth and reason lead us on. From east to west we stand as one, under the light of justice sun. Hear the gathers call, for eyes fall, with minds so sharp and hearts so fair. We'll argue, learn and dare to get. Hear the gathers call, for eyes fall, with minds so sharp and hearts so fair. We'll argue, learn and dare to get. Indian roots, the world inside, debating wrongs, defending right, with logic's fire and wisdom's grace. We'll carve our path and find a place. Indian roots, the world inside, debating wrongs, defending right, with logic's fire and wisdom's grace. We'll carve our path and find a place. Hear the gathers call, for eyes fall, with minds so sharp and hearts so fair. We'll argue, learn and dare to get. Hear the gathers call, for eyes fall, with minds so sharp and hearts so fair. We'll argue, learn and dare to get. Gather now, voice is strong, truth and reason lead us on. From east to west we stand as one, under the light of justice sun. Gather now, voice is strong, truth and reason lead us on. From east to west we stand as one, under the light of justice sun. Hear the gathers call, for eyes fall, with minds so sharp and hearts so fair. We'll argue, learn and dare to get. Hear the gathers call, for eyes fall.
Like, see, we aspire to do this or buy this, but then that aspiration to become a lawyer is not there so much. That was there in my mind, so it has always been there. And then when I moved to this school, luckily or accidentally, Uma ma'am turned out to be a lawyer. Then I thought, why don't we introduce legal studies in the school? And that's how we have this legal studies. And the management has been very, very supportive to have legal education taken to the next level. So we have this moot court today. Now, if you look at any democracy, one of the biggest strengths of any democracy is what we call as the third pillar, that's the judiciary. So whichever country has a strong judicial system, that country progresses a lot. So in developed nations, if you see that any developed nation, you see judiciary has a strong role to play in this thing. Whether you take any strong democracy, be it Germany or the US or UK, they have a very, very, very strong background in law. In olden days also, if you look at history, Indian history, we did have a very, very strong judicial system. Like, for example, if I remember my school days, my teacher taught me that they have in what called as the Chola Empire, then they had this system of writing it in a palm leaf and putting it in what they call as a kodam, or like what they call as a pot, and they used to drop that, and they had this kind of a crude kind of democracy or a judicial system. So where everything was decided on the basis of consensus. Like here again, we have in the judicial system also, everything is based on the consensus agreement of several people. So now I also know that now we have a lot of difficulties in the legal fraternity, right? We have dearth of judges. The number of judges in the country are like less for the kind of population we have, and a lot of things are decided extrajudicially. That means most of the things don't go to the courts at all. Like a lot of things are decided off the courts. So what should be done in court is being done off the court. So those kind of things could be addressed if we have a strong judicial system. So my dream is that at one point of time we'll have a Supreme Court judge coming from, or the Solicitor General coming from Winmore Academy. That's my dream. So with that, I welcome Mr. Chandy, who's a renowned advocate in Bangalore. He's known across the country. Just now, Mr. Bharat, one of our team members, was talking to him. I was just impressed that like so much, we're just lucky to have him as our chief guest today. And I, of course, welcome Mr. Hussain, who's been a pillar of support, right? And like I always tell that education plays a strong role. He's from IIM Calcutta. So that kind of drive or the kind of motivation he has for building up extremely good academics is whenever he talks, he always talks about how do we make this better, how do we make this better. That's the kind of this support I had.
Justice means I'll defend you. Justice means I'll protect you. I won't stand on the sidelines. I will stand by your side.
I know Winmore is such a close-knit community, and it's so nice to see so many parents in attendance. For a moot court launch, I know many of your kids are still in class 9 and 10, and it's a long way for you to go before you actually decide in terms of stream, in terms of subjects. But just to being part and you being present here and being part of this journey with Winmore, says a lot of your commitment in your child's education and the kind of support that we get. So thank you to all the parents who've joined us. Can we have a huge round of applause for them? So like David sir talked, in continuation to what he was saying, this moot court is basically a pioneering new initiative. And in fact, I'm proud to say, and there's something which I was talking with our chief guest, Mr. Vivek as well, is we are the first school in India to actually launch a moot court room. And like sir mentioned, the whole idea is that the CBSE curriculum, if we look at the class 11 curriculum, it begins with the, what is the concept of a state, the organs of government, the sir spoke about democracy, and it then comes to, different forms of law, jurisprudence, etc., right? You move to family law, and then there is obviously now, with everything that we are struggling with in terms of IT, all of that needs a facility so that students can actually experience. And I think that's what the idea of the moot court is, to provide a simulated experience to bridge the gap between whatever you're learning in theory to practice, to develop persuasive communication skills, cultivate analytical rigor, and gain a competitive edge. So the idea is, some of you may end up selecting law as a career, but I think law is also, and if you see the ones at least who are interested, I would recommend and request you to go through, if you go on CBSE's website, every subject in class 11, the first page has a rationale or an objective as to why the board is offering that course. And the rationale for legal studies is extremely interesting. I'll not share that with you here, but please have a look, which talks about, why is it important, not only for children who want to pursue a career in law, but why legal literacy? We talk about financial literacy. We talk about so many other kinds of literacy. Why is legal literacy important? Why is it important for us to be aware of our fundamental rights, duties, etc.? So I think that rationale is a very strongly and well-worded document. My sincerest gratitude to our visionary school leadership. It was David sir's idea, planned, conceptualized to have legal studies as a curriculum. We have thankful to Miss Uma, where because of her background, we are able to, I think one of the challenges which a lot of schools face is having the right kind of faculty with the right kind of skill sets to teach a challenging subject like legal studies at a school level. So we are very lucky that we have a team of 2 visionary leaders who've actually made this a reality. A big shout out to our infrastructure team. I think in a very short time span, and parents, the ones who have not seen, we've also developed a new state-of-the-art science labs when we got our CBSE senior secondary affiliation. Please do have a look at that. And a lot of all of that credit goes to our infra and planning team who've put in days and nights of hard work to ensure all of that actually becomes a reality. Big shout out to Puneet and Soumya for everything that they've helped us in ensuring. And most of all, Mr. Vivek Chandi, someone, we've all personally, looked up to, and having someone of that stature, a legal luminary who's been recognized as one of the brightest legal minds in the country. Having him with us is such a privilege for all of us. And, as you go on and as you, make your journey, you will realize the significance of this individual and what he's contributed to the Indian law scene. Thank you so much, sir, for your presence. It really means a lot.
For me, it's a passion speaking to young students and encouraging them, whether it's in the law or otherwise. I know that, we've got a particular topic which is from moot court to the real courts. But, I've, over the last few weeks, been speaking to quite a few young students, some interns who work in our firm. And a few weeks ago, I was also talking to some of the students of the National Law School of India, which is one of the good law schools in India. And there was a common thread which all the students were concerned about. There were, really, I broke it down. I've made a short note on 3 or 4 points. The first question was, do I need connections? Do I need a godfather? Do I need a mentor to become a successful lawyer? Many young students who are not from, their families were not in the legal field were all concerned. So let me start with that. So the answer is no, because I've been a lawyer for almost 35 years, and I run a firm of, almost 700 lawyers, and I work with some of the largest counsel all over India, including in the Supreme Court. And I would say at least about 80% of all those lawyers are all self-made people. There are, of course, people who, whose fathers were great lawyers, who came from families of lawyers and all the rest of it. But on the whole, I think all the people who've done really well are first-generation lawyers. It was all about them being good lawyers, working hard, and being successful. Like, I always tell my youngsters that you can't keep a good man, or a woman for that matter, down. Because if someone is good and works hard, the sky's the limit. And particularly in the law, there's nothing to stop anyone from being a very successful lawyer, even if one has no connections whatsoever. The second question that always comes up is, do successful lawyers come from the top law schools? Like, there are several national law schools. There's one very good school in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bhopal, Calcutta, Kochi, all these good law schools. Again, the answer is no. And speaking for our firm, because a lot of the other, there are about 6 Tier A law firms, of which we are one. Most of the large law firms, they go for campus recruitment, and they go to these 5 or 6 large law colleges and take them from campus. We have consciously not done that. We try and take young interns, mind you, from smaller law colleges, and when we see them being good students or people who are likely to become good lawyers, we immediately absorb them. We don't do any absorption from the campus. It's all from interns, and mostly interns from smaller colleges who we employ. And believe you me, of course we have a lot of lawyers from some of the top law colleges, but some of the lawyers from the smaller colleges are actually amongst our best lawyers. And so I mean, if you do your CLAT and get into one of the national law schools, fantastic, you'll get a great legal education. But even assuming that you don't do that well in your CLAT and you go to one of the smaller law colleges, that doesn't mean that you can't be a good lawyer or you can't be a successful lawyer. And I'll tell you a funny story that happened a few years ago. There was this new lawyer who was joining our office, and it was his first day in office. So he was from one of the big big law schools. So the first morning, it was 10 o'clock in the morning, he walks in really smartly dressed with his Hermes tie, and he said, what do I do? And there was something urgent, some small matter in one of the criminal courts. So I told him, just run to that court and, just take an adjournment. And he looked at me and said, I've come to I've come to do company law. I'm not going to courts. I said, please just go to the court and sit down over there. So anyway, he went fancily dressed and sat down in the first bench of the court. These criminal courts and the district courts, they start at 11 o'clock in the morning. He must have gone there at 10:30, sat in the first bench and crossed his legs and was waiting for court to start. Suddenly there was a clerk over there who was, he had a small stick at the end. There was some cloth where he was dusting the tables and chairs in court. He saw this fellow sitting over there with just his white shirt and his tie, and he took that stick and hit him on his knees. That fellow jumped up in fright and shock, wondering what had happened. So the fact is that, I'm not sure all over India, but in Karnataka at least, unless you're a lawyer and wearing your black coat, you can't sit cross-legged in courts. It's a strange thing, but that's what it is. So this small-time clerk saw this extra fancily dressed person and thought, let me teach him a lesson. Anyway, he came back to office trembling and, he much less arrogant and much less, cocky. And he then turned out to be a very good lawyer. In fact, he's a partner with one of the large firms at the moment. But, the point is that I was just giving you an example of how some of these students who become lawyers from these top law schools are very overconfident, aggressive, and arrogant to some extent. But after they join the profession, they realize there's, nothing that differentiates them and smart people from smaller colleges. And so if at any point in time you don't get into any of the top law colleges, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you can't be a top lawyer. Now, the next question, I think, I interacted with some of the students just about half an hour, 45 minutes ago. And one of the questions that was posed was, what really does one need to be a good lawyer? So the most important prerogative, according to me, is common sense. And that's what distinguishes a good lawyer from someone who's just average. Because today, law is available at the press of a button. You have everything on computer. You don't need to remember a case law of 1950 or 60 or 70 or whatever it is. You just go onto your computer, you go to ChatGPT, and you get everything that you know. But what you need is to think laterally, to have common sense, and see how to apply the law. It's important, again, that you are commercially wise and you can think in a commercial matter. I, again, advise someone there to start, all of your youngsters, start reading the Economic Times or start reading the Mint every day. In 5 years' time, if you can understand everything that's written in those business publications, I think that'll make you a fantastic lawyer even before you actually start working, because it'll give you a commercial knowledge of what is happening in the country. Hard work and discipline, absolutely. Hard work, in any profession you need to do. And very important that someone is disciplined. So whether it's getting up on time, doing your exercise on time, dressing smartly, all these are, as I see it, important things insofar as discipline is concerned. And I think that really helps someone to become a successful human being, not just necessarily a lawyer. Time management. People talk about lawyers working so hard, having no time for anything. The fact is, I've been a lawyer for 35 years almost. I've never, been so busy that I didn't have time for my family or for my pleasure or to, go for a run or to keep fit. If you manage your affairs properly, there's time for everything, even while being a good lawyer. And there's my favorite saying from, many of you all would have seen the movie Jungle Book. About Mowgli and living in the jungle. I'm hoping that most of you all have seen it. Anyway, the author was Rudyard Kipling, who was a famous, not just did he write, he wrote some poems, and one of his favorite poems, at least my favorite poem, was the poem If. And I would recommend that all of you all read it. But it's absolutely beautiful and it's really inspiring. And but I will just recite 2 lines from this poem, and I think it's profound, and it will all help you all to be better people. And it goes like this: if you can fill the unforgiving moment with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the world and all that's in it, and what is more, you'll be a man, my son. I'll repeat it so that you understand it. It basically means that if you can, spend that time wisely, there's nothing that will stop you. So I'll say it again. If you can fill the unforgiving moment with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the world and all that's in it. And what is more, you'll be a man, my son. So I think that's something you'll need to all pay attention to. Use your time wisely and success will come to you. Two or three other thoughts that I thought I'd mention. One is about the concept of, there's a nice movie again which you all should see. It's called Pay It Forward. It's about someone doing something good for somebody and then that person feeling good and doing something good for the next person, and how the world can become a much better place if you do something. I'm not going to go into details, but I found that in my profession, whenever I've tried to help somebody else, it's come back to me multifold. That person has gone somewhere, become something, and been able to help me so many times. So always try and be helpful to people, and don't try and be, keep everything to yourself or be a dong in the manger. Try and be helpful with people, and believe me, it will always come back to help you. We were also talking to some of you about what you can do for the country, what you can do for society, what you can do for the environment. And I wanted to mention again, when I started my practice in Bombay, but when I came back to Bangalore, this is about 30 years ago, I had no work. And I was not from a legal family, so I didn't know how to go and get work. So what I started doing is people told me there's so many problems with the environment. The government was trying to take over the parks and the playgrounds and build upon them. They were trying to convert the lakes, and build them. So I started filing public interest litigations. And as a young lawyer, I was in my 20s. It was something I could do for free because it's very cheap to file a case in India. And for me, the stakes were very low because I was filing it for the fun of it. But for the other side, the stakes were very high. So I had the top lawyers, not just in Bangalore, but in India, coming and arguing those cases. And I was trying to do it, the intention was to do it to help the environment. But by appearing against those top lawyers, I was recognized and work started flowing, and I started getting more work than I even imagined. As a 26 or 27 or 28-year-old, I was up against people who are in their 50s and 60s and doing well because I was prepared. And that really, from trying to do something for the environment and trying to do something for the public, it really came and, as a boon to me and brought me so much of work that really catapulted me to the next level. So I think that's something that you all could all think about doing. Even if you don't get anything in return, think of doing something for society. And lastly, there's a concern that our constitution is under threat. All of you all, any of you all who become lawyers, please look at safeguarding the Constitution. Fortunately, we have, many years ago, I don't know if you all know that there was this very famous judgment of the Supreme Court where for the only time, 13 judges sat in the case of Keshwananda Bharati. Now, in that case, it was decided that the basic structure of the Constitution cannot be changed. Now, that's really important. And thanks to that, even if all the politicians get together, it'll be very, very difficult for them to change the basic structure of the Constitution, and the important basic structure, the principles are democracy, equality, secularism. These are important principles that we don't want anybody to change. So hopefully if you have a Supreme Court judge from among you, or you have an Attorney General or a Solicitor General, hopefully you all will look at safeguarding the Constitution.
Basically, I would just give you an insight of the moot court that has been set up in our school campus. So moot court rooms offer hands-on approach to legal education, allowing students to gain practical experience in a simulated courtroom setting. So let me tell you how the students are going to be benefited out of this moot court, which is going to benefit their overall personality. Students apply theoretical knowledge to real-life cases, developing a deeper understanding of legal principles and procedures. Students learn to present cases, argue points of law, and respond to judges' questions, honoring their oral advocacy skills. Students conduct in-depth research, analyze cases, and develop well-reasoned arguments, enhancing their critical thinking, which is very, very important, and also the problem-solving skills. Moot court teamwork. Together, they prepare cases, they share responsibilities, and also support each other, fostering teamwork and communication skills. Students receive feedback from judges, peers, mentors, and the staffs who will help them to identify areas of improvement and refine their skills further. Participating in moot court competitions helps students overcome nervousness, articulate their thoughts clearly, and develop confidence in public speaking. Moot court events provide a platform for students to connect with legal professionals, judges, and peers, potentially opening doors for further collaboration or career opportunities. So I'm sure that most of the students who are present here today will opt for the legal studies and become great lawyers in future and benefit our society in all.